hearing from Ian Dewar. Ian is the Global Analytics Director of Consumer and Loyalty at VF Corporation, and his session will be moderated by Charlie Wade, the Group Director and Head of D2C for VMLY&R. Welcome to the stage, Charlie and Ian. Hey.
Thank you very much indeed for having us.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Very well. That was a great talk we just had. So hopefully we can follow up strongly as well.
Yes. No, it's always fun when we have people who know each other outside of these conversations to get that on-stage chemistry. How are you doing, Ian? I think you're on mute.
I was on mute, but you could see me talking. So thank you for having me.
Of course. Now we can hear you. All right. Well, I'll let Charlie take it away, and I'll check back in towards the end. Enjoy, guys.
Thanks very much indeed. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. As mentioned, I'm Charlie Wade. I lead New York Commerce and D2C for VMLY&R, and I'm joined today by Ian Dewar, Director, Consumer and Loyalty for VF Corp. Ian, welcome. Let's start with, sorry, almost caught you on the hop there as you're about to take a drink. Let's start with, Ian, can you tell us a bit more about VF, please?
Yeah, absolutely. You may not all be familiar with VF Corp as an organization, but certainly you're familiar with our brands. VF is one of the world's largest apparel, footwear, and accessory companies. We own brands such as North Face, Vans, Timberland, Dickies, are our big four brands, and our product is organized into three categories: lifestyle brands like Vans, outdoor brands like the North Face, Timberland, Smartwool, Icebreaker, and workwear brands like Dickies, Timberland Pro, and some smaller brands that many people may not have heard of, Walls, Terra, et cetera, Red Cap, et cetera. And we operate globally across Europe, Asia, and North America. We own more than 1,000 stores worldwide, but we're also available in more than 10,000 points of distribution in North America alone, probably around 5,000 points of distribution in Europe. So we have a big wholesale business, we have a big direct-to-consumer retail business, and we have a big e-commerce business. All of our companies sell direct-to-consumer by email. They don't all have their own retail stores.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to start with an interesting question, I hope, for the audience, which is, I always think of your brands as being very outdoorsy, or I kind of think of them as being quite high contact. And obviously we've had quite a strange year with people not being able to get out and about as much as possible. How's it affected your customers?
I mean, absolutely affected us in a huge amount of ways. It's been an interesting year for VF for sure. The pandemic did remind us of a lot of things, and that time and relationships are really important in our lives. I neglected to kind of talk about the brand purpose from VF in the introduction, but the brand purpose of VF is to power movements of sustainable and active lifestyles for the betterment of people and the planet. And I know I just read that, but it's really has never come to life more than it has in the last 6 months. And as we think about kind of what's important to the company and what's important to our customers and our associates, this commitment to active lifestyles and some commitment to betterment of the planet has been super important. You know, we recognize like social distancing is not a natural act. I mean, for some people it is if you're an introvert, but you know, most people like to connect with other people, to connect with each other, to connect with nature, and to feel good about it. And so the big piece for us as we've shifted, and some of that is in our marketing, some of that in the product we've presented, some of that is in the actions we've taken, is that we're really trying to continue to inspire our customers to go outdoors, to celebrate individuality, and to build something that they can be proud of. And you know, whether that building is building something in their community or literally picking up a hammer and building a deck in your backyard, that's, you know, I think we really weathered this storm of COVID well, but it's caused a massive disruption in the business. You know, 1,000 stores had to close, but it's allowed us to really lean into this purpose of powering movements of active and sustainable lifestyles, and that is exactly what customers have shifted to because of COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Your brands, again, it's quite interesting because I feel like more than a lot of others, like the people who work there really live it as well. So how's it affected you and your colleagues, you know, not being able to get out and about, not being in the amazing offices you have?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, being people first has always been one of the three pillars of VF. You know, our CEO likes to say we're a purpose-led, performance-driven, people-first company, and VF's always kind of thought that way. Recently, the corporation moved to Denver a year ago. I live in Denver now. I used to live in California, and 800 people up and moved to Denver last June and July. And with all of us with the anticipation of moving into a new building, downtown Denver, completely renovated, LEED certified, beautiful building with a climbing wall in it. We were all supposed to move in there in March, and then no, maybe we'll move in August. You know, so it's certainly changed the reaction to our team here. But I'd say even more than that, VF has tried to keep the corporation and keep the associates together. We paid all of our retail associates for the 3 months our stores were closed. You know, it allowed us to ramp back up very quickly because everyone was still available. But that was a big commitment to keep, you know, more than 3,000 retail associates on full payroll for times when the store were closed. I think the other thing that the company has done, which is really in line with getting outdoors, coming back to your question, but is they've created a whole series of activities that can be done solo or in a small group, but that the company encourages. We had an internal webinar. I think it's similar to this. We had an internal webinar about a week ago on how to prepare to climb a 14,000-foot peak in Colorado, and they had the head of the Colorado Mountain Club come on, and there were more than 100 associates that logged in, and they talked about what to wear, you know, hopefully North Face, but what to wear, what to bring, what backpacks, you know, what, like how to prepare for it. And it was a great way to kind of virtually bring the associates together. You know, we are very much you know, an outdoor but also an engaged brand. It's hard to not, you know, we can't not to get together both with our colleagues but also with the customers. So that's been a big shift for sure. But you know, I think I really think VF and especially the brands that are leaning into making product that people want during COVID are going to come out of this better than we went into it.
That's really interesting. So I want to kind of focus now on very much your area of expertise. Everyone, I think, on this call knows the value and how important data is, but sometimes how you use it is a little bit less clear. And we often say that the best operators are the ones that think in terms of data creation as opposed to just data capture. What does that actually mean for you and for the organization?
So you know, again, coming back to the VF family of brands is built, like we build product for people to use, but we also build product to inspire people to explore the world and celebrate their individuality. And one of the things that has always been true at VF is that we want our customers to buy and use our product. You know, we don't build product that has a deliberate expiration date. You know, the idea that you would buy a jacket from us and need to buy a new jacket 2 years from now has never been in our DNA. We have a lifetime guarantee on workmanship against the product across all of the brands. And so the idea that we just build and build to sell, we really build to use. So from a data perspective, I believe it's far more important what our customers do with the product we sell them than what they actually bought or paid for it. And so with, you know, by that, we really look to create some level of predictive model. I mean, I work in marketing, I work in data and analytics. We build propensity models to buy, we build next best product models, we build product recommendation engines. And, you know, the idea is, yes, you know, our intention is to sell more product, but it's to sell more product that our customers can use and not just product that, you know, there's not going to be an ad that says, you know, our new thermoball jacket now available in burnt orange, this season's hottest color. Like if you own it, you don't need it. And so for us, where data becomes super important, and the behavioral data really is the kind of linchpin of that, where the behavioral data becomes super important, is because customers can use our product for different end uses. Let me use the North Face thermoball jacket as an example. It's a mid-weight insulated jacket. It's made with synthetic insulation. It compresses down to like the size of a softball.
Yeah.
And you might not know what softball is, but
I do. Don't worry, I do. It's a fake game, but I get it. It's okay.
A grapefruit. Let you look at a grapefruit. But so it's, and it's a lightweight, compressible synthetic jacket that's a great piece for layering if you spend time in the high mountains, especially in bad weather. But it's also a great jacket for walking to work in the fall, or traveling on an airplane, or standing on the sideline as your kid plays sports. And so what happens is as a customers buy thermoball, and take a customer who purchases thermoball from us, we know they're male, we know they're approximately 35, we know they live in New York City. Well, the next best product for them could be anything from a high-performance hiking boot to a backpack with a laptop sleeve to a merino wool travel T-shirt. And we really need that behavioral data to make that recommendation, so that, again, come back to the idea we want to fill out your closet with things you can use. So we're recommending product that the customers might not know we make, but will enhance their experience versus someone else's. And that's always been super important to us. It's true across Timberland with their yellow boot, a very iconic product. It's true across Vans with their skate shoe. I'd be naive to suggest that everyone who buys a skate high shoe from Vans is going to use that to go skateboarding in a bowl in the next 5 days. So as we understand kind of that behavior behind it, it helps us continue to increase our relevance with our product. One thing that I always think about with marketing is that it's always better to talk with your customers than to talk at your customers.
Absolutely.
And people are way more likely to respond to things they're interested in.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I'm interested though, you talk about how strong you are as a D2C operator as well across all of your brands. You mentioned it in your intro. How far do you think being a D2C brand has helped you to build out that understanding of data analytics, but more importantly, customer behavior?
Yeah, being D2C led opens up a much larger set of customer data than we would if we were just a wholesale partner or sold only to third-party wholesale locations. But the flip of that is that being unibrand in most of our stores really only gives us partial visibility into a customer's shopping behavior. If we were REI or Dick's Sporting Goods, who are big North Face and Smart Wool retailers, or maybe Journeys, which is a big Vans retailer, you get a much better understanding of the customer's full buying behavior for sport or for outdoors. And since we only sell part of what's needed for many activities, we don't have that full repeat visit visibility. I think being D2C led is awesome to start to collect that first touch of customers. They've come in the store, we're able to, or they've come to our website, we're able to collect some data against them. We know who they are. We can even ask them some questions. But what we have to do is take that one step further and really start to get that additional behavioral data and why it's so important. Again, a good example, if you wanted to go camping next weekend, and if you lived in Colorado, all the campsites are booked, but you might be able to get a campsite in September, but you want to go camping next weekend, you could not buy everything you needed from the North Face. We make tents, we make sleeping bags, we don't make sleeping pads, we don't make stoves, we don't make pots and pans, we don't make flashlights. And so all of the things that you need, you're going to have to go elsewhere to complete that purchase. And so for us, it's super important that if we think you're going camping and you've given us the sort of insight that you like camping, that we show you what we make that would make your camping experience better. We show you the right tent or sleeping bag for where you live, the right type of backpack for carrying your gear, and then allow you to discover the rest elsewhere. Coming back to this behavioral data, and we're very deliberate about it, but that's one of the reasons we created the VIP Rewards program at North Face about 6 years ago, and then Vans Family Rewards program, a loyalty program at Vans 3 years ago, was we wanted a mechanism where we could ask our customers to tell us more about themselves, but also reward them, give them some incentive or benefit from doing that. And both have been great tools for asking our customers to tell us more about themselves.
Absolutely. Now, I think we'll probably touch on some of those areas as we go through the next section as well. But One of the things that we've found, obviously, in the last few months is the coronavirus has turned everything a little bit upside down. We still do believe, and you and I have spoken about this, we do believe that some of these things are kind of happening anyway. We were seeing some vague trends coming through, albeit that the last 6 months may have changed them, accelerated them, or whatever it might be. So there's a couple I wanted to touch on with you and get your insight across the major brands there. So the first one really is e-commerce. And I think that even in the last segment, they talk quite a lot about e-commerce. What sort of changes and what differences have you seen coming out of the last few months, and what do you think you'll continue to see?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been a huge increase in online traffic and shopping. Right? I read somewhere recently that the amount of online shopping behavior today is in line with what was predicted 3 to 4 years from now. And I'll tell you, we have relatively aggressive growth goals, and at VF, and we are at a level that is 3 years out. We're at a 2023 level of e-commerce behavior right now, so which is awesome, of course. It also, with the stores being closed, that there's some migration, but it's forced people to learn how to shop online. And I say that, I think probably this audience is very versed in online shopping. I think the peer set that I engage with are very versed in online shopping, but there's 150 million families in the United States, and not all of them buy online. And yet as stores close, it forced people to really kind of reconsider and to some extent learn that or try new things. I'll be honest, I haven't tried grocery delivery in like 10 years. I ordered from Webvan. That dates me. That's how old I am. I ordered from Webvan first came up before went bankrupt in eCom 1.0. And then I didn't order it because I was like, they crushed my bread and the tomato was squished. So I tried grocery delivery for the first 10 years. And so it's, there's clearly trends across that. I think the big thing that we've seen and are benefiting from is more deliberate purchasing. People are buying things they quote unquote need. You don't necessarily need a pair of comfy slippers, or a new sweatshirt, but luckily we make that. They're buying things they need. They're buying products for solo and small group activities, which again, we make a lot of that. And they're buying more comfortable apparel, casual apparel, and equipment that can be used, the useful equipment. Again, not like we sell things you don't use, but things that you would use right away. A tote bag to take your kid's stuff to the pool versus a technical backpack for ice climbing, as an example. And so with that shift to deliberate purchasing, we're really leaning in as much as possible with our marketing to show people product that is fun, that we think they're going to enjoy wearing, and that meets a need, especially if that need is either running around your neighborhood or sitting in your house on a Zoom call for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, well, a pair of slippers is pretty important if you're doing that. I'm sure your sales have done quite well recently. I mean, I think that, the classics and follow-up in many ways, when we talk about e-commerce is what does happen to the store. And of course, we know that a lot of stores are being closed. I'd love to get an idea from you of what you think what the future of the store will be. What have you seen happening? What's the role of it within VF, and what are you hoping will come next?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as I said, we closed all our stores on March 15th. We continued to pay our associates, so ramping them back up in early June was easier than I think some retailers had. But we were able to reopen almost all of our stores. Now I think all of them are open. With some of them have a little bit of localized COVID concerns, so they have less hours. But we're back open, and we've implemented pretty major safety requirements in the stores, including masks for all associates, social distancing markers for the cash wrap, limiting the number of customers in the store. But even more than that, I think the biggest impact is this shift in shopping behavior, coming back to customers being more deliberate. Not only are they more deliberate in what they're buying, they're more deliberate in how they're buying it. And so things that were potentially available even a year ago or 2 years ago that weren't in high demand, like buy online, pick up in store, localized inventory on the website. We didn't have curbside pickup until recently, but we've implemented that. And so traffic is down. Combination of people being nervous and uncertainty about what's even open. So there's less people out shopping. So conversion is way up. People are coming in the store and they know what they want, and even more so, the customers know what they want before they got there, and they've already done that research. And so that shift in shopping behavior and that access to information, we've been trying to tell our customers for the last couple of years, you can buy online ship, you buy online pick up in the store. You can ship to the store from our e-com site if you also want to pick up something we sell. We can order from one store and have it delivered to your house from another store, but it wasn't really taken advantage of because people didn't feel like they needed it. Now that it's become a bigger necessity, people started, we pushed up that availability, but they started to take advantage of it. And I think in the past, we used to say omni-channel meant we needed to meet the customers wherever they wanted to shop. We had to have inventory available online, in-store, on the app. We had to have our promotions the same. You couldn't have 30% off in store and 40% off online. That wasn't fair, right? Omni-channel was meet the customer where they want to shop. But really, what omni-channel means is that the customers are using all these channels simultaneously or sequentially in their shopping journey. We don't have retail-only, e-com-only, app-only customers. We have customers who open their laptop and look at what we have in the store. They create a basket and push it to their app. They go in the app with a basket pre-created. They talk to the associate about what they want. And so all of a sudden, omni-channel isn't buy anywhere. It's literally information everywhere. And so this shift in omni-channel and this idea that people aren't going to go backwards. Like people aren't going to, a year from now, close their laptops and be like, I don't need to look online for stuff anymore. I'm just going to go to the store and see whatever they have, right? Like, we've provided this level of information. The new omni-channel is not buy anywhere. It's have access to information everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a fascinating area. I mean, I think we're seeing some brands, sneaker brands particularly, are really kind of embracing using digital in-store and offering kind of almost fully digital checkout experiences without ever having to talk to someone in the store. And then at the same time, we're seeing other brands looking at their stores almost as like mini distribution centers placed strategically around in key urban areas. It's a really sort of fascinating time for what the model is that the companies bring together. But sort of almost shifting away from that, quite a lot of what we talk about, when we work in commerce specifically is about buying, clearly, but brands need to think beyond the buy button, don't they? The time of sort of transaction only. So what does that mean? I feel like it's something you're doing quite a lot of, but what does it mean to VF and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, community has always been an important part of VF and especially for big brands like North Face, Vans, Timberland. And we've always thought of our customers as part of the kind of broader brand family. To the point that when Vans launched their loyalty program, they called it Vans Family. And the idea was we want to, as I said at the beginning, inspire and encourage our customers to do more with their product. And so as COVID forced this shutdown, we really started to think about, like, what can we do in our local communities to encourage and inspire people to do the activities, even if they're not buying the product from us. To the extent VF has a relatively large charitable arm. We committed more than $1 million across the United States to organizations that we already worked with that do outdoor participation, youth enablement, et cetera, so that we understood that those programs may have trouble raising money. We wanted to make additional funds available. But we also went back to our customers and said, what can we do that isn't necessarily focused on getting to buy something, but more do something? At the North Face, we went back and relicensed a lot of our historic video library. We have a massive, extensive film, film video, like online video, they're not videos, but online film library that have adventure films, from 3 minutes to 45 minutes. And we relicensed most of them, rapidly put together a website, sent emails and social posts out that said, hey, if you're stuck at home, don't know what to do, watch, get inspired, think about your next trip for when COVID is over. And then we worked on deliberate marketing to show people products they could use now, and even some how-to videos for things they could do at home by themselves or in a small group. Across VF, we launched our first responder and healthcare worker discount program. Dickies was already well positioned to make PPE for healthcare workers, so we ramped that up dramatically. It wasn't possible for North Face, say, to pivot to making masks immediately, but we recognized that the people who were working through the whole COVID pandemic and continue to work, like they're eventually going to want to do something outside of their jobs, and how could we help them in by giving them North Face, Vans, Timberland product at a better price, so that when they were ready to kind of take a bit of a break, they had that product. We launched a summer base camp program for kids at the North Face. It was a series of 6 educational videos. They're still online, so if anyone wants to check them out, go learn how to make a peephole camera or snacks for your kid, or set up a base camp in your backyard. But the idea was, hey, we know, and I'm the same. I have 2 kids. Their summer camps got canceled. I've been scrambling for stuff to do, and you set up a tent in the backyard, at least it keeps them busy for 2 hours. So we built that program. At Vans, they pivoted it a little bit different and created a program called Foot the Bill, which I think is an awesome idea. What they did is they used their custom shoe infrastructure to reach out to more than 100 of their local partners, whether that was music venues, skate shops, clothing stores, mostly small, independent-run, family-owned businesses that were forced to close. And they said, hey, design a shoe, we'll sell it for you and give you half the money. We promoted it through Vans website, through the Vans Family Program. They promoted it, and every shoe that got sold, we gave half the money back to the business. They didn't have to stock anything. They didn't have to carry anything. They didn't have to deliver anything. All they had to do was tell their customers that buy it, we'll ship it, and you can wear it. And that program has been awesome. So.
It's absolutely amazing. I love the Vans example in particular. I think it's great. I mean, just one final ancillary question, if you like, to this area. I mean, how important, as someone who understands the way that people behave and what they do and so on, how important do you think it is for brands to continue doing this kind of thing? Some of it will be community outreach. Some of it will just be talking to their customers in a way that's more than just products. How important do you think it is?
I mean, incredibly important. Customers have more access to information than they have ever had before. They have more choices for shopping than they ever have had before. They have more ways to pay. There's more options out there, and younger customers are showing themselves way more willing to switch brands. And so for a brand to really think about the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years lifetime relationship, that's me building this community involvement and letting your customers know you're about more than just selling them something that they're going to give away, throw away, get rid of in the future is incredibly important. So I don't anticipate that changing at all across VF, but I think smart brands are going to do more of that, and as they should.
Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to kind of go to an area that I think everyone loves. Everyone quite enjoys a prediction. So I wanted to ask you a couple of predictions in particular. What do you think is going to happen to retail over the next 12, 18 months? Maybe less so from a VF perspective. What do you think is going to happen in retail?
So customers definitely want to shop again. I mean, we've seen that even with lower traffic at retail, customers want to get back out and people like new things. People are doing new activities. They want to be able to buy for it. I think this sort of concept of deliberate shopping is going to continue to grow. People are going to be better educated when they come to the stores. And even if COVID goes away, even if customers aren't, I would say, afraid, concerned about being in public, I think deliberate shopping will continue to increase. I think people are more likely to buy what they need this weekend or next week than plan super far in advance. I mean, COVID has certainly shown us. Everyone thought, May 13th, everything was great. And by May 20th, everything was closed. And so, I think people have learned from that experience, and they're going to think about, buy and use versus buy and hold for the future. So this deliberate shopping piece is only going to increase. I think activity-based travel and tourism is going to, not only has it rebounded, but it's going to continue. I read Airbnb had their best June ever last month. Now, if you're, I'm not in the investment business, but apparently their IPO is back on the market. So, Airbnb has responded, and people are saying, hey, if I can't go to Europe, or I can't go to Mexico, or I can't get on an airplane and go to Disney, I'm not going to cancel my vacation. I'm gonna pivot and do something closer to home, and so the activity will continue to increase for sure. Brands like ours that make hiking, running, trekking, backpacks, tents, and will benefit from that. But brands that can also bring in the products you need to support this travel close to home is going to continue. And then I think people want some level of interaction, and as concerts and sporting events change over the next 6 months, I saw a picture yesterday of a festival in UK actually where they set up individual platforms. So groups of 4 to 6 could watch a live show separated from other people, and why not? If you've ever been to a concert where you were crushed at the front of the stage, you might think a little separation wasn't a bad idea. And so as things like sports, concerts, theater come back, it's going to be different. People will plan more ahead for that and less ahead for what they want to buy. So I think there's tremendous opportunity in this deliberate space.
Absolutely. I mean, funnily enough, the biggest miracle about that concert was that the weather held out, given it was in England. Normally you'd expect it to hammer down with rain as you're planning something like that. So that was good news. Look, lastly, from my questions, I always like to end these things on a bit of hope. And I kind of want to ask you a question about what good have you seen come out of this? What have you looked at over the last few months and said, look, it's been pretty brutal for everyone. It's not been that much fun, but you know what? This thing was quite nice.
I mean, I love the amount of activity, right? Whether it's hiking or running, which our company benefits from, or cycling. I personally like cycling a lot. We don't make any bike stuff at VF aside from some cycling socks at Smartwool, but cycling has exploded. I live in Colorado, but you live in New York City. I've read about bike shops in New York City that literally have no bikes. They've sold their whole summer inventory, their May to September inventory by June 1st. And so people are riding bikes, people are pulling their bikes out of their garage and fixing them up, people are taking their kids hiking, and to me that's great. Anything that encourages people to get outside, be active, and then take advantage of their surroundings is super important. Colorado, again, I saw recently that the city of Denver's committed $7 million next year for cycling infrastructure development, because so many people are riding bikes. Colorado Department of Transportation has committed somewhere like $30 million across the state. And typically when you think about, encouraging activity, whether it's hiking, running, cycling, you have to build the infrastructure and people come to it. Well, this is the opposite. People are doing it and cities are responding and saying, wow, we need more bike lanes. We need more access to parks. We need more trails. And they're developing them, and that is awesome. I think certainly when people can go back to football games and baseball games and concerts, that may slow down a little bit. But the nice thing about it is like cycling, running, hiking, it's fun. And it's energizing. And if that's allowed people to rediscover something they haven't done for 10 or 20 years, awesome. So that to me is some level of silver lining coming out of this, is that it's allowed people to make a closer connection to their local sort of environment, and then also a broader nature in general.
That's fantastic, Ian. Thank you so much. So those are the questions I had. However, there are a good few here in the chat. So I'm going to open with quite a big one for you, but it does definitely play into the idea of future facing. So we have one from Isabel that says, what do you see as the biggest future challenge to retail and e-commerce? And what is the biggest opportunity? It's a pretty big one.
I think brand switching is probably the biggest challenge. I think this access to information and continuing to be relevant. I think as customers, customers have now been exposed to more online tools, and it's pretty easy to go from website to website, right? If you're looking for literally anything, you're looking for a part for your car or a piece for your bicycle or a insulated jacket, you don't have to drive all over town to check 4 stores. You can go to 4 websites, and as people start to see how easy it is to do comparison shopping, they're going to continue to do that. I also think that this has brought an audience into e-commerce in a much bigger way. So the challenge for brands is one, to stay relevant for your customers, but 2, give them a reason to come to your stores. And you made a great example of how stores are pivoting to be a whole combination of showroom, DC, pickup location, all of that, and I would add inspiration location. The point of stores really should be to inspire people to love your brand. So the store represents the optimal representation of what the brand can be. And then you go online. You can't touch a shoe online. You can't feel a rock climbing wall online, but you can do that in a store. And so as stores start to really build that and say, here's what you could experience. Put a ramp, maybe not a ramp, maybe a skate ramp in your store is a bad idea. But put a rock climbing wall in your store. We have in a few of our stores, we have these footbed testing zones, which are literally a bunch of rocks and concrete that you walk over to see how your foot feels with it.
Yeah.
And, put a cold room in your store, and that to me is that really shift. So that for sure, keeping customers is probably the biggest challenge. But if you ask me what the biggest opportunity is, I would say it's the same. The opportunity now is to really prove to your customers why you're relevant for them.
That's great. I think that, as I said, you're such high contact brands. I would say an awful lot. We've got 2 absolute zingers in the last couple of minutes left. So this one I think is great from Karen. So what are the biggest surprises? What were the biggest surprises coming out of this last few months? And you can kind of answer, she's given, I think, the option here, what was good and what was bad. So what did you learn that you thought, God, that's really interesting, we can take it on, or, we need to learn from that?
I thought the initial slowdown in shopping would be larger. That definitely surprised me. I think that the yes, there's been a shift in products that people sell. I'm not that there's anything bad about this, but I'm glad I'm not in the tuxedo or leather shoe business right now, because people just aren't using them. So that's been. But I say I was surprised by the speed with which people say, I don't use the word pivot again, but switched their interest. I can't go to the gym. I'm going to buy a pair of running shoes and start running. I can't go to sporting events. I'm going to take my kid to the park. I think the level of optimism, and I think this is true of the American consumer in general, the level of optimism that allowed people to continue to shop and then buy something different has been really encouraging. I think people could have holed up, they could have hoarded toilet paper and flour and pasta and just sat in their house and said, well, I'm not sure what 6 months from now or 3 months from now is going to bring, so I'm not going to spend any money. I'm going to save all my money. I'm going to shut myself in and bake my own bread. But instead, people said, hey, I still want to do something. I can't do what I used to do. I'm going to do something new. Or in the case of cycling, rediscover something they did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But that level of optimism has been really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Testing the old adage about learning, never forgetting to ride a bike. So this last one I think is really interesting from Mike. So today brands seem to be built from experience up, whereas the old ways was advertising down. I think actually you might think it's a bit more of a linear situation. So you've got different touch points with equal weighting, but nonetheless, it's a good way of looking at it. So what are VF doing amongst the brands to create digital, virtual and commerce experiences that are amazing? So I think you can probably pick on any of those you'd like in the last couple of minutes, please.
Yeah, I think the example I used of the summer base camp is a great, or the online film festival is a great example of that. But you're right that the kind of building community in the past was massive broadcast, and then almost like blunt force people into your store. Whereas as today, it's more like giving people an emotional reason to connect with your brand. Oh, I see Emily. I think she's.
Yeah, you can finish the point. I'm just popping back in.
She just appears up to kind of wrap you up. It's sort of quite an ominous thing, I must say. She just turns up in. Keep going, though, please.
Yeah. So I would say this emotional, creating an emotional connection and giving your customer a reason to care about you. And that's not, you can't just do that with, stores and organic social. Like, advertising is not going to go away. But I think advertising is going to change to a level where some brands do this, are great at this already. But brands are really going to tell and should be telling more authentic stories about how people can use their products to make their lives or their community or their family better. And that's the brands succeed. And I think I said this earlier, but I was struck by, and maybe Mark Cuban said this, like, the companies that come out of COVID best are the ones that relate to their customers and to their employees the best during this time and offer support. And people are going to remember that. And so to me, anything that you can do to continue to build this emotional engagement and be willing to say, you don't have to buy from us, just use it. We have an initiative next week called Walls Are Meant for Climbing from the North Face, which is all about encouraging people to learn or go rock climbing. We don't make harnesses, we don't make shoes, we make T-shirts. But I mean, you can rock climb in any T-shirt. That's not a commercial exercise for us. It's a emotional exercise for us to encourage people to do something. And that's amazing. That for me is probably the biggest output of this.
That's amazing. Ian, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and thank you everyone for listening and the great questions. Thank you indeed. Emily, back to you.
Yeah, thank you both so much. Really, really appreciate you all taking the time to join us. I loved all of your conversation and hearing your points about how, shoppers are a lot more intentional when they're coming to the stores, because I think some of the days of just browsing might be behind us now, or you just go to the mall for fun. So it'll be interesting to see how things transpire. But thank you both for joining us today, and we hope to have you back soon on our virtual stage.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, we're headed into our last session of the day. Last but certainly not least, and we're going to hear from Seth Goldman, who is the co-founder of Eat the Change and Plant Burger, the co-founder of Honest Tea, and the current chair of the board of Beyond